Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Journalist Talk. Today I have Melanie Guerrero with me. She is a journalism undergrad student at CSUN and one of my dearest friends. So, Melanie, thank you so much for coming.
You're very welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, I want you to start with a brief biography about yourself. It's something that I do with everyone so we can settle the mood for all of my listeners.
Okay, yeah. Can I be as candid as I want?
Yes, you can.
All right. Well, my name's Melanie Guerrero. I was born and raised in Southside Oxnard. I still reside here in Oxnard, still in the same home I grew up with, thankfully. I went to community college before I transferred out into Northridge. It is quite a distance to get to campus from my hometown, so I do take the train, but being the avid bookworm that I am, because I love to read and I love to write, it gives me a lot of time to just kind of relax and have this quiet space where I can just put in my headphones and read my books. Yeah, those are pretty much my hobbies. I'm a journalist student here. I'm studying broadcast journalism. Actually, going to be graduating. I guess this semester. I mean, I don't walk until May, but my last class is on Wednesday. So yeah, that's just a little bit about me. I'm also really into makeup. I love makeup. I love dressing up. I like making aesthetic boards and playlist boards for the book I'm reading. So it's a little fun fact about me.
Love that. We love fun facts. Thank you so much for telling us all of that about you. And we can start. You touched that you're from Oxnard and all, and I know that you are so active within your community there. And I think that's like one of the most important points for journalists who want to make a real change is to be very active in something. Can you talk more about your relationship with your community and how maybe you want to use that in your work as a journalist?
Yeah, so my parents really, and not to say enforced, but or encouraged. It kind of just happened. My parents, they didn't start becoming active into the community until maybe my sister and I were going through our first communion or confirmation, and that's kind of where I got my first taste of being part of my community, because being part of my church, in my church, it wasn't just one of those Spanish churches. We had people of different races. It was mostly Latino and Filipino. That was most of the demographic of our church. And I started helping out in the summers when I was about 10, because when my mom went to go register me for communion and register my sister for confirmation, she just happened to be, as my mom does, she's a very nice lady, just happened to be making conversation with some of the people who were doing the official paperwork. And they mentioned how they needed volunteers. And my mom was like, all right, I'll help. I'll do the registration next summer. And then I can help teach a class the upcoming weeks of communion. And then my daughters can help too. Like she can literally just throw us all in there. But I don't ever remember being like sad or mad about it. I was always like, oh, cool. Okay, I guess this is what I'm doing for my summer break. And I ended up helping out with the church from literally the ages of maybe 11 all the way until my senior year of high school when I was 17. And at that point, I was already going on retreats and leading youth groups and helping teach my own catechism. Well, not my own catechisms, it was a duo. So there was one catechist, and then there was me, and we would just go back and forth. So there's that. And then my babysitter growing up, she was a pretty active member of the community. So when she would babysit me, she would take me out into the community and, would meet all these people. And by the time I got to college, I was missing that. I was missing being a part of my community, missing helping out the church. That I started helping out more with my babysitter, my past babysitter at this point, seeing what she needed help with. How can I help? Like, even if it was just babysitting the neighbors' kids, or going to the park and being like a second set of eyes when she was babysitting her nieces and nephews. And then ultimately the pandemic hit, I realized just how great of a community I live in. I mean, being a journalist student, we're always hearing stories about people who, just were under that poverty line or were just invisible enough that they didn't get enough coverage or seen or their stories weren't being heard. And I never saw that in my community. In fact, what I saw was a community banding together. Like, for example, that same neighbor helped organize a food drive that is still going on to this day. So we have obviously the nonprofit organizations in our group, they're doing a food drive, and then there's a separate food drive for different churches, and then her own, like, I don't want to say personal one, but her own kind of one that she did for the community, which my parents also help out with, and they encourage us to go help out with. And then around this time, I actually started working at a gym. I know, it just sounds really funny, working at a gym in the middle of a pandemic. That's just asking for some trouble, but no, it was actually very beneficial because that particular gym, even though it was kind of a corporation of some sorts, it really brought in a lot of people, like professors from the local community college, high school kids, teachers. It brought in those same youth group leaders that I worked with previous. It was a whole kind of mosh pit, or whatever you want to call it, of just diverse beings who just wanted to communicate and wanted to tell you about their day, and you tell them about their day, and then it ended up turning into, well, how can I help you? How can you help me? Here's some advice that I have. And then as we speak now, I'm actually a part of a different church where I was doing advocacy work for them. I was helping them with their social media stuff. I was helping them plan and organize events. I still am. In fact, we do have an event coming up on Saturday. It's like kind of a parent/kids day that we've been working on for about like a month and a half now. So community is very important to me, and it's also very important to me as a journalist to advocate that even though Southside Oxnard, which is I'm reiterating, the part that I grew up in, we have such a bad reputation. Everyone thinks that, well, not everyone, but the people who know of Oxnard immediately go to, gangsters and cholos and all these really bad things, these Latinos who aren't educated, because that was another thing that we hear. And helping out my community and being a journalist and advocating for a church or for a food pantry or something along those lines, it really kind of is able to help me share and bring light to my community and tell them, like, no, we are good people here. This is a community where people were down on their luck during the pandemic, and we rose to the occasion to help them. This is a community where I can be a Catholic and help out at a Lutheran evangelical church, be accepted, be prayed over for my finals, and be willing to accept members of the community, regardless of religion, because they need help babysitting their kids on one Saturday, or the kids need a safe place to come. Doesn't matter their religion, come with us. Like, that is what my community is about. It's welcoming, it's loving and accepting, and those are the stories that I want to tell as a journalist.
I am so impacted. I'm not even joking. I love when you talk like about your community. I was even like, I saw it in your Instagram when I was doing my research about you. You made a video just talking about it, about your community and your family and how it was growing up in Oxnard. And you know what? Like, I honestly, I want to stay here in the US. It's not that I don't love my community of being from Brazil and all, but I think I can do more in here. And every time that I talk to you, I feel like inspired to just go out and, like, I don't know, go search for other Brazilians and do something about it. Because I mean, I know that there's like a lot of Brazilians here in Northridge, but we're always like so spread out that I don't even know where to start. But everything that you said, Mel, it's so amazing. And I really hope that you can keep doing those works that you're doing already, but with journalism and reaching more and more people to be aware of your community. That is amazing. Congratulations already for thinking like that, you know. that is great. Tell me a little more about your community college. Did you also study journalism in there? How was your experience in community college before coming to CSUN?
So my experience at community college was wonderful. I can't talk down on it at all. You know, my community of Oxnard itself was just a home place. It was a great thing to be a part of. The same can be said for Oxnard College. I actually did not study journalism at Oxnard College because Oxnard College does not have a journalist program. In order to combat that, or it's not combat, that's probably the wrong word to use, but in order to kind of get the classes I needed to be accepted into a Northridge or into any other university that had a journalist program that I was interested in, I had to take film and media classes, which is so funny. Or actually, no, now that I'm thinking about it, it kind of goes hand in hand. So I was learning about film production and setting production sets and screenwriting and setting up a camera to film in community college to get me to a career where it's like I'm going to be reporting the news. There's no filmmaking to it, but there is storytelling to it. And I was learning how to maybe fictional stories, yeah, but I was learning to put those stories together and set them up to a visual. And then eventually that led me over to broadcast journalism. I did feel a little bit like my education lacked when I got to Northridge, just because I had students who were going to Moore Park College so for those of you who don't know, Ventura County, the community colleges were so big that they had to split them up into 3 different campuses. So there's Oxnard College, Ventura College, and Moore Park College. They're all community colleges, but they were so big that they split them up into different regions. So you could take classes at any college and still be credited as to one school. And thinking back on it now, it was so weird how Moore Park College had a journalist program, a thriving one actually. In fact, when I got to Northridge, a lot of my peers were referencing or like name dropping professors that they had who taught them journalism at community college, and the other professors like knew what they were saying. They're like, oh, okay, that makes you a good student then because you learned from the best. And I was just there kind of in my corner because I mean, I'm the only kid in the program who's from Oxnard. I remember my first day of classes. They were on Zoom, but I remember the first day, the first introductions in every single class that I had my first semester. The professor always asked, where are you from? And, oh, Oxnard, what is that place? I've never heard of it. So it was really much of a culture shock to one, be studying film and TV media, to get into this program. Not only that, but to get into this program and be completely, I think, pushed to the side because I was not the kid who had these great professors. I was the kid who was a little behind in everything to catch up because I didn't have these same skills or these same kind of writings as the other kids or portfolios or experience. But, that just made me work a lot harder. I've been at CSUN for about 2 years now, so you would call that 4 semesters. 3 of those semesters I have been on Dean's List. I have made the best grades that I have ever, and it's really because of the resilience of having to, work harder, pay more attention in class, understand what is going. And that is a resilience that taught me at Oxnard College because even though I didn't learn all of those same skills, you best believe they taught me how to believe in myself.
Mel, having classes with you and working with you at the radio station, I can tell you're not behind anymore. You're doing incredible. You have so much potential. You have no idea, girl.
Thank you.
But tell me a little more about film production and all this first step that you took to get to journalism. I know that you love storytelling because we're always talking about that because we have that in common. But how did you get to film production? Was something that they told you to take? Like, hey, we don't have journalism. This would be like the best bet to get somewhere, a 4-year university for journalism, or you just got interested in it halfway through your film production AA?
So I always knew I wanted to go into broadcast journalism. My mom used to always tell me, I can't wait to see one of my girls on TV, or I would love to have my morning coffee and watch one of my girls news anchor. And when she was saying this, I didn't really know what I wanted to do, but I knew that one, I wasn't afraid of public speaking. I wasn't afraid of telling a story. I wasn't afraid of communicating. And it just like clicked in my head. Journalism, news anchoring, I can do that. That's perfect for me because I'm not afraid. I want to use these skills that I know that I'm the best at. So, I go, and I didn't know Oxnard College didn't have a journalism program. It's so funny. Like, I didn't know how uncommon it was to be a journalist in my area because I used to work in Camarillo, which is a town next to Oxnard, and even there, just for reference, Camarillo is a little bit more of a richer, less diverse neighborhood. They don't really have a lot of Latinos there. So you would think that they would understand like more than just the basic nursing and automatic careers that Oxnard students produce. But no, even then they were like, broadcast journalism? I never heard of that either. So I'm like, oh, fabulous. But going on to the film production classes, I mean, I think what they were trying to, they really tried their hardest with me. I did take communication classes, and they really were on me. They really believed in me. And that sounds really weird to say because it's like a lot of kids go to school, they go to classes, and they just do their thing versus me, like, when you're a student at Oxford College, you have guidance counselors who are checking up on you. You have professors who are checking up on you. They are not going to let you fail. You have a whole team of resources who are there to help you out. And so they were doing the research for me, and they were telling me, okay, when you go to this school or when you want to transfer over, well, let's put it into perspective, CSUN, they're gonna want you to know to set up a camera so you can do an interview. So take a film production class or an audio class. They can show you how to cut and edit audio, and they can show you how to set up a camera. Sure, it's going to be for a movie, but when you go over there, at least you know the skills or some skills on how to do it for an interview. And there are some times, even though I say some of my education lacked, there's some of where my education thrived because now I knew, because sometimes filming a movie or a short film is a little bit more complex than filming a interview, like a stand-up interview. And I was like, oh, this is easy. I've got this. I know the questions to ask, and I know how to set it up. I know the rule of thirds. I don't have to do any crazy sequences because I had such an extensive film knowledge that it made interviewing with the camera so much easier. The same thing for screenwriting was like, I'm sorry, we don't have any journalism classes that teach you how to properly write, but here's 3 general English classes that you can take that'll show you 3 different types of writing, plus a screenwriting class that'll show you the importance of storytelling in different ways. Not only that, but they had these mass communications classes where they taught you how media and mass communication go hand in hand and how that reflects on a society as a whole. And that really helped me when I got here because some of the classes I was taking, I already had knowledge of. I already knew this. This was beginner stuff at OC, but it was high-level stuff at CSUN, which I thought was very interesting. So it really set me up in a ways that I didn't know, that I'm like just now being able to reflect on and be like, wow, I really knew what I was doing certain times, because even though it was so far-fetched to go from film to broadcasting, it still translated to almost the same skills.
This whole time that you were talking, I was trying to translate a saying that we have in Brazil to English. I don't know how it's gonna go, but God writes right through different paths. It's something like that.
Yes. I mean, I don't know the saying, obviously. Of course, I'm not from Brazil, but I this whole time during the pandemic, what I used to tell myself was, God does not put things in your path that you cannot handle.
Yeah, and it's just a bunch of other skills that you have that all those people from the other colleges and cool professors and well-known people or whatever, they didn't have it. They had one view only, and you had film production, screenwriting, other writing skills, other filming skills that people were just like, oh no, I know how to do this for journalism, but if you ask me to do a short film, I'm gonna do a longer journalistic piece because they know how to do that format, not like other ones. So I feel like that even gives you an advantage, which is really cool.
Yeah, and it also teaches you a lot of tips and tricks. Like, it's so funny when I have to mic somebody up because usually they have to do like a 1-2 mic test. No, one thing that I picked up in a film production class is when you mic someone up, instead of doing mic check 1, 2, 3, say this, say that, keep them talking. Like, keep them, like, ask them what they had for breakfast, ask them what their favorite brand is, open-ended questions. And that's something I don't really see a lot of journalist students do here. No shame to them, no shame at all. You know, do what you got to do to help you get that story. But that was just another trick that helped me was like, oh, just have a conversation when you're doing a mic check. And that's invaluable because not only do you have a conversation with them and you get your levels, but you also start kind of creating this foundation of friendship and like friendliness and personalness that you really want to achieve as a journalist when you're trying to get the story.
To all my dear listeners, please, this is a very nice advice that Melanie is giving y'all. So start using it because I feel like Mike 1, 2, 3 is like so. It's not professional. It's just like I have to get done with this so we can start, and it doesn't give like this proximity that sometimes it's needed for the story. But I know that you have a different view of journalism now than what you might have had a few years ago. And I wanted to talk about that because I feel like our views agree also because I feel like journalism is so much more than what we are doing with it. Can you talk more about it?
You know, when I first got into journalism, I'm not gonna lie, I was 18 years old. I had no idea what it meant to like put in the work and hustle and grind. I just looked at the TV and I said, I want to be her. I want to be on the TV and I want to be reporting and looking cool and making tons of money. I know, very naive of me. But then, you know, I started learning, and of course, I had my education at OC, where that's another thing that I really like about my education as OC is that the professors there, they knew that I wanted to be a journalist major, but they didn't stop me from believing in the impossible. Like, I think I've told you before, at the same time that I wanted to be a journalist, I was also trying to make it in acting. Like, I really wanted to be an actress. Not as much anymore, to be completely honest. But they would have me. Everyone in the program knew that I wanted to be an actress. So every time they had like a short story or a short film, they were like, "Melanie, can you star in it? Melanie, there's like I do photo shoots, I do all of that," and it really opened my eyes to all the things that I was learning because in the same program I have photographers. Photographers were taking film and media classes. I had people who wanted to go into. It's so funny. There was this one kid who was very talented, and when I asked him like, "Did you want to be a director?" He said, "No, I want to be. I'm double majoring in psychology because I want to be a therapist for entertainers. Like I want to help entertainers get in the right mindset for a movie." I was like, "What? That's a thing." Like I went from understanding that all of my classmates didn't want to be actors and directors to going to a school where it really advertised hard news, be a political person, make it on KTLA and Spectrum. And at this point, I have already developed the mindset of, wait, what? Can't I do more? Like I realized very quickly I didn't want to be a news anchor anymore. I didn't want to be the person reporting the stories. I wanted to be the person telling the stories, which sounds kind of weird because you would think the news anchor is the one who tells the stories, but it's not. And I didn't want to do reporting at all. Like I don't want to be a journalist, which just sounds so weird because I'm about to graduate. But no, I want to take these skills that I learned, these media skills, these Instagram skills, and these everything that I like, setting up a camera, good lighting, audio stuff. I want to take that and take it back to my community because we do have a local newspaper here, and I would love to work with them or the high school I went to. Like they didn't have a lot of resources. They're still on print newspaper. They don't know about websites or Instagram or TikTok or how that's being used for journalism nowadays too, I would love to go back and teach those same skills I just learned to them. And at the same time, I also, refound my love of writing. Like I've always been a writer since I was a little kid, but once I started at CSUN, I kind of lost it because I was more so like focused on analytical and logic and getting the facts. But going through this program, I learned that I still do love writing fictional stories. And one of my classes taught me how to write a blog. Like how, obviously, it was a journalistic blog, but he encouraged me to create a short story blog. And it's gotten some attention. There's an Instagram on it, all this stuff. And I would love to go back again and teach that or use that to my benefit, to take those skills that I learned and make something of myself rather than just of what journalism expects me to do.
I love that. And you touched on one of my last questions. Now we're going towards the end of our conversation. I have 3 more questions for you. And one of it is talk more about your website with short stories. I loved it. I read it. And, we were always writing our short stories and poetry like in classes. I know that's not good. Please, the students, don't do that. But it was so nice to have like someone to talk to about this type of things, and you actually did a website on it. I am still formatting to do kind of a book. So talk more about it. Where did your ideas come from? What do you write about? Just let us know anything about your writing on the website.
I'll always talk about my writing. So my website. Well, let me give you my Instagram. My Instagram is Ink Stains and Daydreams. And on there is the link. It's still a Wix site, so I still am in the process of getting the domain name, like just to Ink Stains and Daydreams. But there's a link on that Instagram page to my website. Writing okay, this is going to sound really funny, but, growing up, all I really had was writing. Like, I didn't know, like, I was still trying to find my friends. I was eating lunch alone. Like, it wasn't a good experience for me growing up socially. And obviously that also means that, up in my head, it wasn't a safe place either. So I wrote stories to create a safe place in my head. I wrote stories so that when my mind began to wander, I didn't wander into the negative, side of things. I wandered into like the fantasy of things of what could be like. For example, if my friends were picking on me at lunch and I ran to the restroom to go cry, I would instead go and I would think, okay, I'm crying in the restroom, but this is the part where a magical portal is going to open up and they would take me away to this Neverland kind of world. And that's kind of where it stemmed from. And then I love fiction. I absolutely love fiction. I love romance. We talked about this. All of my stories will have romance in them. But it stemmed from that taking the impossible and making it possible, or taking a bad situation and making it a better situation. I write, right now, the stories I'm currently working on have a lot to do with like magic, because I love magic and I love what could like be like all the outcomes we can do with that. Like there's magical schools, there's the underdog who didn't know that they had powers, there was all of that. Sorry, I'm losing my train of thought here. I just see, this is what writing gets to me. I start thinking of so many ideas as I talk about it. I know last year I wrote a story because my mental health wasn't in the best state of mind. Mental health, but not best state of mind. And I needed an outlet, and I didn't know, like, I thought listening to music, going on walks would help me, but it wasn't doing what it's supposed to do. Like, what helped me out was putting it all into a story. So I ended up writing a whole story that took me the entire semester about a girl who lives in this village and suffers from mental health, but she's also a healer, and she ends up finding this found family with a bunch of misfits from a neighboring village and helps like kind of save their town and save their world. And in it, I wrote about characters who look like me. I am brown-skinned, black-haired Latina. We don't hear about those in fantasy stories. I am, shorter. I'm not curvy like Latinas. Let's put it that way. I don't look like the stereotypical Latina we see on TV. So she looks like that. I wrote characters about the people who I went to school with, again, who were, Filipino or Samoan or of different cultures that we don't hear about. And I wrote characters that looked like them and all the struggles that they go through. And of course, I was very proud of myself. It sounds really weird to say, but I was very proud of myself because I ended up writing a scene about the character having a panic attack. And I was just thinking to myself, this is exactly how I feel when I feel like I'm having anxiety or that the walls are closing in. And it was a really powerful moment for me to admit, oh my gosh, it was through writing that story that I was able to admit to myself, oh no, I'm having mental health struggles. What I just wrote that this character happened has actually already happened to me. I need help. And writing that story inspired me to get help and pursue like therapy. And that's what I hope that people get from my writings, is that same feeling of like they realize something within themselves. And yeah, that's pretty much the basis of what my writing stems from, trying to create a good outcome from a bad outcome.
I love that. I love that. And I really want to see more of your writing, Mel. Keep updating the website, please.
I will try my best.
No, of course, of course. All in the right time. You don't have to rush anything in your life. Everything happens at the right time that they are supposed to.
And that's the great thing about writing, is that we hear about these authors who are like, yeah, like for example Anna Todd that wrote After. She's like, yeah, I dedicated 6 hours to writing and I have this great novel now. And it was a fan fiction, which I love because I am an avid fan fiction reader. Fan fiction will always be number one in my heart. Some of my stories are inspired by fan fictions or fandoms. But I didn't dedicate 6 hours of my day writing. I dedicated like an hour, sometimes more, sometimes less. But that didn't stop my healing process or my creative process at all. I just went at my own pace.
I love that. And with all this background that you have and all this work that you've been doing, you've been taking TV classes, radio classes, you have your website, you have all the other side of your community college skills. What is your ultimate career goal? What do you want to do with your life?
That is a great question. And I'm also 23 years old and I don't know. And that's okay. That's something I struggled with because I had professors telling me, you have to go work at these news stations. You have to become this great whatever. Then I also had like my own personal thing was like, well, I want to write. I want to be an author. I want to have a book series. And the truth is, I want to do it all. Like, I want to one day be able to teach a classroom full of kids how to create their stories or how to become social media influencers, as funny as that says. Because honestly, that's a whole other conversation, but that's where the world is going now. Like, social media is quite important, and I would like to teach kids how to navigate that. I would like to have my own book series, and I would like to end up on shows like Good Morning America or KTLA or whatever, talking about my book series and doing all of that stuff. Like I want it all, and I think that if I put in the work, I can do it. And honestly, something that I took for granted and I want to do it all in Oxnard, by the way. I want to do it all here in my community where I feel like they would benefit the most from it because they deserve it. And honestly, something that I learned in the pandemic was that it's okay to have aspirations for a 9-to-5 job as well. It is okay to be just an average plain Jane who just wants to live their life the way that they want to live their life. There's no rule that says we all have to aspire to be rich and famous and great. The only rule is to aspire to be happy and thankful for and grateful for what we have and give it back. So if that means working a 9-to-5 while I get my book published, or if that means working in my local radio station instead of a big media one, then that's fine. Or if that just means going and becoming like a substitute teacher or a parent educator or pursuing a teaching credential, and putting a little bit more time on my clock to find a career, then that's fine too.
Yeah, it's totally fine. And, I have so many things that I want to work on. I want to have my books published, but now I really want to work with podcasting. Like, it's been so long, and having this podcast is like literally the best thing It's my baby of all of my journalism projects because I
Yeah.
feel like I can be so close to people and it doesn't interfere when I interview my friends because sometimes journalists they don't have the chance to tell their own stories and that's what I want to do in here, and having people coming in and telling me about their super different backgrounds and what they want to do with their lives and what is their projects, personal projects and works and stuff that they want to do is just like so fulfilling to be able to give like people who give other people voices their own. So I am so like focused in audio and my writing and also I get it. We all want everything and with the right effort
Hmm.
and willingly to stay up nights and stuff to do everything they have to do. It's gonna be worth it.
When I first started CSUN, I was like news anchor or true crime podcast host. But then somebody told me that I wasn't going to make it, and that really upset me. One of my classmates legit was like, yeah, you want to be a true crime podcaster? Good luck with that. And I was like, wow, okay, this is what I'm stepping into. And that's kind of when my journey of do I really want to be a journalist? Do I really want to develop an attitude like some of my classmates? No, I don't. So while I still have other aspirations, because I totally agree with you about podcasting, how important it is to give people a voice, especially on something that's becoming so popular like a podcasting platform. I 110 agree, like that's important. We need that. And I would love to pursue that at one time or another. But again, that just, again, adds to the growing field of like, with this degree, anything is possible. With these skills, anything is possible.
That is true. Journalists, they can do so much, and we focus on the traditional, on what people expect us to do, that we don't explore everything that we have, like right in front of us. We have the
Yeah.
mediums, we have the skills, we have the thoughts, but we don't have the courage. I think that's the word. We're not brave enough to break those traditional stuff, like we don't do it.
Yeah, it's so funny because journalism is a profession where they teach you to be brave and to go out there and get the story and do what you got to do. But then at the same time, it's also a place where it's like, okay, to do what you got to do, but make sure it's in the realm of what we want you to do. It's such an untraditional kind of career because you have to go and do all these things and you have to constantly be developing your media skills. But at the same time, it's so traditional because you have to follow a hierarchy, which
Yeah.
is weird. It's just like, wait, you taught us to do all these things and to ask for forgiveness instead of permission, but now you're telling us that when we graduate, everything is about permission.
Yeah, that's insane. And to finish our conversation today, unfortunately, we went so long in here. It's so great to talk to you about this because I feel like we could have hours long conversations about it.
Honestly, that's my fault. I'm a talker.
I love that. Don't worry. Podcasting is all about the voice, whatever we're talking about in here. I just wanted you to give people who are graduating also right now and they also didn't figure it out what they want to do in the future for them not to fall into this pressure that we all have after graduating, like find a job, do this, do that, fall into that box. What is your advice for people?
Breathe. Honestly, breathe. Just because they taught you one thing at college doesn't mean it's the end all by all. Do what's best for you. If you need, I mean, I was constantly told, like, it's so funny, in my town, I was constantly told, oh, you're graduating? That means you're going to take a break, right? And I was like, what? They're like, yeah, like, you've been in school for 5 years. You should take a break. And honestly, I was like, that's an option? That's a thing? I can breathe? That's my advice to anybody who's graduating and they realize that their degree isn't for them. Just breathe, and what happens, happens. And don't forget that some of those skills that you learn are transferable to other things. So it's okay to be knocking on doors and trying new things. We're in our 20s. No one has life figured out in their 20s. And if you're older and with kids and a family, then that's totally fine too, because you showed that you are capable of something and you committed to something and you can commit to something else too. Like, it is totally fine to just breathe and take a step back and figure out what it is that you like and what it is that you don't like. And don't shame yourself for picking a major that you don't like. There was at one point where you did like it or where you felt the need to take that major, and it just so happens that it didn't work out, and that's fine. That's life. That doesn't mean you're gonna end up sad and depressed the rest of your life. It just means it's one thing you don't like, but there's other things that are like, let me go explore that.
Mel, the one thing that I want to say after this interview is thank you. Thank you for talking to me about all of that and enlightening the listeners with all of your ideas and opinions and your life experience. Thank you so much for coming here today and talking to me. It was really amazing to have you.
It was amazing to be here and to be accepted for those controversial opinions. I mean, other people may think they're controversial, but I'm glad to voice them. And if anyone hears them, at least know that they are not alone in whatever it is that they are facing.
So everyone, this was our episode and I'm really glad that you guys are here and enjoying it. So be ready to enjoy this new season. I am bringing more stuff besides the interviews for you guys related to journalism, so I hope you all enjoy that. And meanwhile, while I have you here, I have some news too. I decided to start our Facebook page and it's Journalist Talk. So if you find it there, just click it and follow and like and interact with me with the posts and all. And I also have a website. It's podpage.com/journalist-talk. And my Instagram is at Beatriz Barros Felice News. So all of that I'm gonna put in the show notes, but here it goes. It's a reminder for all of you. And I am excited for this new journey of season 3 in 2023. And for all of you, my listeners, I'll see you guys in the next episode.